The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Thank you for joining us here at FRC Media. We are getting set for the municipal election, which is coming up on November 7th. And we're speaking to as many candidates as possible so you can make an informed choice when you go to the polls. I'm pleased to be joined by a newcomer to campaigning this year. She's running for Fall River City Councilor. She is Gloria Saddler. Gloria, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Keith.
So this is your first time you've run for office. Any office?
Any office?
Any office?
Well, when I was in college.
That was only a few years ago, right? So let me just ask you, for the people who don't know who you are, just tell us a little bit about yourself and why you want to run for City Council.
I am Gloria Saddler, Dr. Gloria Saddler. I am a community advocate. I am a math teacher, math educator, Fall River Public Schools. Many people are not aware of that. I am running for office because I think Fall River has grown up, and no offense to the current slate, but I think that sometimes when you bring in new people, you bring in fresh ideals, and I think right about now with Fall River's growth, they require fresh new ideals from new individuals.
So in the preliminary election, you made the cut, you made it to the second round. You were, I believe, 17th.
Yes.
What are you doing? Are you doing anything different than you did for the preliminary now that you sort of have a poll, right, of how you stand in terms of campaigning?
What I have done much differently is I have gotten out more into the community. I know I had spread myself into the Flint area, but I've moved further into the other neighborhoods of Fall River.
And what are people, how's their response been to you when you speak to them about your ideas?
People have received me well. There have been a few who've been reluctant, and they are the individuals who tell me that they were born and raised in Fall River, and Fall River's not ready for change.
They've said that?
They have said that to me.
Wow. So how do you plan on just doing more of that between now and Election Day?
Yes.
Or just going door to door, meeting people, and going to as many events as you can, public events if you can?
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I want to ask you a little bit about some of the issues that have come up in this year's campaign. One, affordable housing. That is something that has been an issue. It's a nationwide issue, with inflation having gone up over the past couple of years since the pandemic has waned. How, as one councilor, can you propose ideas in terms of making it easier for people to live in Fall River? It may not necessarily be housing. It may also be, as a council, you approve the budget. So maybe there's ways to trim the budget that you can save taxpayer money. What are your ideas?
One of my ideals that I mentioned during the forum this week is we need to consider the funds that are being set aside for new storefronts, for first-time home buyers. We need to consider the long-term homeowners. Individuals, the seniors that have owned their home for years. For example, my next-door neighbor sold his six-family for measly $250,000, and within a month, the value had skyrocketed, almost doubled for what he had sold it for. And I said to him, do not sell your family generational home. I mean, he mentioned his family had picked up screws and nails to pay for that home. He sold because he was threatened with, he needed to have new fire escapes. He says, I don't have money for that. He was threatened with, you're going to have to rewire the entire building. He said, I don't have funds for that. He didn't have funds for new plumbing, so he sold. 62-year-old man sold the family generational property. What I propose is we permit those long-term homeowners, such as my former next-door neighbor, to receive funds from the city where they will keep the rents at a low rate, at an affordable rate, I should say, at an affordable rate. But the city will invest in upgrading the plumbing, the electrical, adding the new fire escapes so that the long-term homeowners can continue to own these homes, pay their taxes, their assessments, but yet keep their rates at an affordable rate.
Now, would this be for any multifamily homeowner, or those that are like what we call owner occupied, those that own their like triple decker houses that live there?
Owner occupied,
So for the people who are investing here and living here, that would be sort of a benefit for you.
Yes.
I want to shift a little bit to public safety. Police Chief Garvin at a city council meeting earlier this year, in talking about, I believe it was during budget time, was saying that years ago there used to be a lot of police recruits, but not a lot of money to hire more police. Now the city has money to hire police, and we don't have the number of recruits. How do you look at, potentially aiding the community in recruiting more police officers? As one councilor, again, you have to have, four other votes to get anything passed, but what are your views in terms of how we can improve public safety?
I think we need to start with a cadet program with perhaps college students who are looking to go into criminal justice. Start them out as cadets. Have them do ride-alongs. Provide them with an opportunity to see the long-term opportunities of becoming a public safety officer. Provide them with an opportunity to ride along so that they can really see what behind the scenes tasks are involved with being a safety officer. We don't need to, this is just my opinion, start looking outside of the city. We need to try to look for our own residents to become a part of the public safety so that you have people that are from the community. One thing that I really am put off with is when you have to go outside to seek employers for the city, because guess what? To me, they're not invested in the city because they're not living in the city. The one thing that I'm very proud to know about Boston is to be a new hire, and I've looked at employment with the city of Boston. You have to be a resident.
There's a residency requirement.
You have to be a resident. They will employ you, and they tell you you have 60 days or 90 days to become a resident. And from what I've heard from insiders, my inside sources, they'll come and look, they'll come and check. There'll be opportunities for them to really investigate, are you really a resident or did you just give an address?
So you're in favor of that similarly here in Fall River, some
Yes.
sort of residency requirement
Yes.
for city employees?
There
Will
has to be.
Will that include police, fire, teachers as well?
Teachers as well, teachers as well. Hey, let's home grow them. When I ran my Bristow Community College Taunton campus, the mayor at the time, Tom Hoy, and all of the politicians, they would often hear me say, homegrown. I would push Bristow Community College. I would push, I think it was Eastern Nazarene that was in the industrial park. I think it was Eastern Nazarene. Homegrown. They don't need to go anywhere. Stay here, grow here. One thing that pains me, people in Fall River talk about how they're so proud of Fall River. I was born here in Fall River. I was raised here in Fall River. And as soon as they get 2 cents, what do? Hit the bridge. Hit the bridge.
Yeah.
And then they get on Facebook and they talk about, and that's why I left the city. Really?
Yeah.
The city that you love so much, the city that you want to tell newcomers such as myself, and I've been here 10 years as a homeowner, that we really don't fit in and we don't understand. I understand more than you know. I understand that I live in the city, and the only reason that I live in the city is because I worked within the city. When I worked for Bristow Community College, I said, the city is invested in me. The state has invested in me. Bristow Community College invested in me. I'm going to invest in the city. And I purchased my home. I moved here from Quincy, Mass.
Yeah. Let me ask you one final question. If elected, you'll be working with 8 other colleagues
Yes.
on the city council. It's difficult for one councilor to make a lot of inroads because, again, you need 5 votes to pass anything. How do you feel you would be in terms of a collaborator with the other members of the city council?
One of the things that I think the city council is lacking, and this is just from my view of watching the meetings, I hate when people are coming in and a subject comes up and they're shifting and shuffling the papers. I would have my facts before me, And because I did not want to depend on everyone else, those 5 other at a minimum, to have already reviewed resolutions or whatever's before the council, I would actually bring copies of any evidence, because I'm a researcher. I would bring copies of any evidence so that they would at least ask for a pause. Let's pause the meeting for a moment. Let me take a quick review of what's going on, because you have to have buy-in. And all of my degrees are in leadership. So I'm looking for buy-in. You are not going to be able to secure buy-in if you haven't even brought facts to the table.
Yeah. Well, Gloria Saddler, I appreciate your time. Best of luck on Election Day, and hopefully we'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us here at FRC Media. Please make a point to vote on Tuesday, November 7th.